For the first time in years, the world is once again facing a chilling economic warning sign. Oil has surged past $100 per barrel, global markets are shaking, and one of the most important energy routes on Earth is under threat. Across the Middle East, attacks on shipping lanes, oil infrastructure, and commercial vessels are spreading, triggering fears of a major global energy crisis. The question now is no longer whether the conflict will affect the world economy. The real question is, how severe will the impact be? Oil is the lifeblood of the global economy. From transportation and manufacturing to electricity generation and food supply chains, the price of oil influences almost everything people pay for. So when oil crosses the psychologically critical $100 per barrel level, economists, governments, and markets immediately pay attention. And this time, the surge isn't being driven by market speculation. It's being driven by war, instability, and attacks across the Middle East, a region responsible for a large share of the world's energy supply. Current global situation. In recent days, crude oil prices have jumped sharply as tensions escalate in the Middle East. The global benchmark Brent crude surged above $100 per barrel, rising more than 9% in a single day, while U.S. crude prices climbed close to 95. The surge follows a wave of attacks on commercial shipping, fuel tankers, and energy infrastructure across the Gulf region. Reports indicate that commercial ships have been struck near key oil routes. Tankers in Iraqi waters were attacked by explosive boats. Energy facilities across multiple Gulf states have been targeted. These attacks have severely disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical oil transit routes in the world. Under normal conditions, about 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow waterway between Iran and Oman. But as the conflict intensifies, tanker traffic has collapsed, and many shipping companies have halted operations in the area. This disruption has created immediate fears of a global supply shock. To understand why markets reacted so quickly, you have to understand the scale of what's happening. Here are some key facts shaping the crisis. First, oil prices have risen dramatically since the conflict escalated. Brent crude briefly climbed above $119 per barrel, the highest level since 2022, before settling around $100 as markets reacted to new attacks. Second, governments are already trying to stabilize the market. The International Energy Agency announced a record release of about 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, including over 170 million barrels from the United States. However, analysts warn that emergency reserves can only provide temporary relief if supply disruptions continue. Third, the conflict is spreading beyond one country. Strikes and retaliatory attacks have affected multiple areas across the Gulf, including shipping routes, oil terminals, and energy sites. This has transformed what began as a regional confrontation into a global energy security crisis. Energy analysts say the real issue is not simply the attacks themselves, it's the vulnerability of the global oil supply chain. The Middle East remains one of the most important energy-producing regions on Earth, and the Strait of Hormuz acts as a choke point for global oil exports. When that route becomes unsafe, the consequences ripple across the entire global economy. Shipping companies pull back, insurance costs skyrocket, oil traders panic, and prices surge. Some analysts warn that if disruptions continue for weeks, or if exports from Gulf producers are halted, oil prices could climb significantly higher. In extreme scenarios, some forecasts suggest prices could reach $150 to $200 per barrel, levels not seen in decades. Why this matters to people. For ordinary people around the world, the impact of rising oil prices is immediate. Higher oil prices lead to more expensive gasoline and diesel, rising airline ticket prices, increased shipping and transportation costs, higher food prices due to logistics costs, inflation across entire economies. In other words, when oil becomes more expensive, almost everything else eventually does too. And if prices remain high for long enough, it can slow economic growth or even trigger recessions. Conclusion: the surge of oil past $100 per barrel is more than just a market headline. It is a warning signal, a warning that geopolitical tensions in the Middle East are once again threatening the stability of the global energy system. As attacks continue and shipping routes remain uncertain, the world now faces a fragile moment. Because in today's interconnected global economy, what happens in the narrow waters of the Persian Gulf can quickly be felt at gas stations, supermarkets, and stock markets across the entire planet. And until the conflict stabilizes, the world's most important commodity will remain at the center of a growing geopolitical storm.